My first night in the hospital, my last visitor was the Cook County State's Attorney. He walked up to the side of my bed and took a look at me, shook his head, and said, "This will be attempted murder." I think before this incident happened that I was definitely a Christian. I was a pastor leading a church. We were very active in ministry to the poor, and I thought on the outside that I was really expressing and having God's heart. In 2001, I had been approached by a person we had been reaching out to in our homeless ministry and asked if I could take him out to Bluff City Cemetery out by Villa Olivia. "Hey, would you take me out there and let me visit some relatives' grave sites?" I was glad to do it, and on the way back, they asked if they could be dropped off at the East Side Quarry. And as we sat parked by the quarry on the side of the road, they asked, "Hey, Pastor, would you pray for me?" I was glad to do it. I closed my eyes, reached out, and touched their shoulder. My prayer was suddenly interrupted by this flow of blood that was coming from my neck all over. And I hadn't realized it, but they had taken out a knife during my prayer, and they slashed my throat here and then along here. The blade actually went through between two vertebrae that run through my neck and nicked an artery there. I had 4.5 inches of cut. At that time, I wasn't measuring anything. I was just aware that there was blood all over and that I was in a fight for my life. And I was in the midst of seeing my life flash before my eyes, and I'm wondering, how much insurance do I have on my life? And what about my 7 kids? And what about everything else? We continued to struggle in the car, and I got my car door open. We rolled out and exchanged punches and fought there on the street. I was curious whether I was going to be able to sustain energy, and I reached out and tied him up in a wrestling move. He took the opportunity to take a rock from the side of the road and work me over the head pretty good with that. A truck driver drove by and didn't get out of the car, but he looked in his rearview mirror. It was enough to unnerve my attacker, who then took off in the woods. As I sat there contemplating what to do, I realized I had lost my shirt, lost my undershirt, lost my glasses, my shoes, and was bleeding profusely. And I actually had a picture of standing before the judgment seat of Christ. I was surprised that in my heart, I wasn't that excited. I realized in the currency of heaven that all the stuff we valued on earth wasn't of any value. No one wanted to hear what your W-2 was, or whether you had a BA or a PhD, or how many people were in your church, or even what you had accomplished in life. The atmosphere of heaven was beckoning one question, and that was, did you receive God's love on earth? And did you let His love flow through you? And I saw that even though I'd plainly heard the gospel, plainly read the commandments and all the scriptures dozens of times, that I had missed the application. And my heart's desire standing before the judgment seat was, Lord, give me a chance to redo this. Give me a chance to live a life of love. I see it so clearly now. And let me have a redo. Well, all this is happening in seconds, this download and these reflections, and I got up, jumped in my car, and with no glasses just drove to the first public place. I laid on my horn until an ambulance arrived, and before I knew it, I was on my way to Sherman Hospital. God just brought me to a conviction here that through this incident, that your life is superficial, and that's not good. I'm not looking for a superficial love. I'm looking for a deep, life-changing, transforming love. And I think my wife would testify today. I think my kids would testify. I think my congregation would testify that they got a new pastor through this whole incident. The transaction happened in that hospital room that so fully transmitted forgiveness to my heart, God's love to my heart and God's joy to my heart. And I felt like I became a new person. After this, I found that I had a new ear of people willing to listen in and ask the question, can God do for my heart what he did for his heart? Can God give me that healing, that hope, that joy, that restoration? And the answer is, he can.